Okay, so this is something I don't usually do on my YouTube channel, which is react to Bleacher Report mock drafts. I'm going to start doing back my mock drafts pretty soon, but I wanted to try and, shake it up a little bit. So we have the 2025 NBA mock draft pro comparisons, full set 2-round predictions. We're definitely not doing 2 rounds because I'm not that tapped in. I'm not that tapped in yet. All right, man, we here. 2025 NBA mock draft pro comparisons and full 2-round predictions. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. I don't know all 60 prospects here. I'm just gonna be honest. It's still very early into the draft season, so I'm still learning more players as they go. So there's going to be a few players that I just don't have my best breakdown of yet. So we're gonna be skipping over those players. The last thing I want to do is lie to the Buzzer crew. Like, come on now, man. We've been building this community, and you think I'm gonna lie to y'all? Look at me in my eyes. Do you think I'm gonna lie to y'all? Be honest. I've never came up here and lied, ever. So let's get to it. All right, this is by Jonathan Wasserman. Good shit, Jonathan. Posted it on New Year's Day. Look at that. Anyway. First pick of the draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Cooper Flagg. Now, this is a Pelicans team that has been riddled by injuries and are looking to trade everybody on the roster. Now, if I am the Pelicans and I land the number 1 pick, Zion's gone, BI's gone. Even I think BI's probably going to be traded at the trade deadline because he is on a contract year and you're not going to re-sign him. So you're probably going to trade him at the trade deadline, but Zion's gone, BI's gone, CJ's gone, and DeJounte's gone. So that leaves you with Cooper Flagg, Jose Alvarado, Yves Missy, who looks like he's about to be the rookie of the year with his rim protection and athleticism. That could be something really nice to pair up with him and Cooper Flagg. You have Herb Jones on the perimeter, who's also a really good perimeter defender, and you have all the pieces that you're going to get back for CJ McCollum and Zion Williamson. So this is a really good deal, and I think this is a really fun young team to build around. Also, you get Cooper Flagg in New Orleans. That would be pretty cool. The Pelicans are 5-28. They're the worst team in the league. And Cooper Flagg goes to Duke. We all know that. 6'9", 205 pounds, 17 years old. His pro comparison is Andre Karolinko and Jalen Johnson. I think that's kind of lazy. I think the Andre Karolinko comparison is kind of played out. I think Cooper Flagg is a little bit more like Jaren Jackson. I think there's a lot to be worked on offensively, but I think Cooper Flagg does have the upside to be a defender like Jaren Jackson, very mobile on the perimeter, very great help side rim protector. Isn't going to be the best post defender, but I think his rebounding, his intensity that he's going to bring to the game is going to translate to him becoming a very good leader. He looks buff as shit right here too. Like, Cooper Flagg's not the buffest guy, but in this picture he looks buff as shit. I don't know if that sounds a little like pause moment, but it is what it is. I don't know if I love the pro comparison here, but I think Cooper Flagg's the number 1 pick, and the more we get into the draft process, the more I'm going to explain why I think Cooper Flagg's the number 1 pick, because the guy who I'm assuming is number 2 has been getting a lot of buzz to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Anyway, up next we have Dylan Harper going to the Washington Wizards. I love this. The Washington Wizards are in desperate need of a number 1. I think Dylan Harper has the potential to be a number 1 on a really good team. If he takes that scoring jump that I predict that he's going to take. Right now they have him as a point guard, shooting guard. I think he's going to be a full-time point guard the more reps he gets. I don't ever see him being like a top-tier playmaker in the NBA, but I definitely see him as a guy that can average about 6 or 7 assists a game and can just make the right read. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to carry a team based off of his playmaking, but I definitely think he will make the right decisions out of double teams, out of the pick and roll, knowing when to pass his guys open and things like that. He's also very crafty around the rim, which is very impressive at this young of an age, and his in-between game is very good, and he's actually been a very solid shooter. His pro comparisons has been Kobe White and Jalen Brunson. I can really dig the Jalen Brunson thing, but the thing is, Dylan Harper 6'6". There's some defensive potential there, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm projecting him to be a game changer defensively, but there's definitely some room there for him to be a better defensive player and to be a positive for a really good team, so I think Dylan Harper can be the starting point guard for a really good defense. He has all the tools, he has the athleticism, he has the height to be a positive, to maybe guard the lesser perimeter player out of the two. So I think Dylan Harper is a really good prospect, and I think he's going to be an all-NBA type of guy. As for his fit with the Washington Wizards, I already brought that up. Number 3, the Toronto Raptors are going to be taking Ace Bailey, and I'm glad he's still going number 3. I know I just posted my top 5 scorers in the draft, and I think I had him at 3. And I was really like trying to figure out, because that little range between 4 and 2 was a little confusing for me, because I think Ace Bailey has the potential to be the best scorer in this draft when we look back 5 years from now. I brought this up in past mock drafts. I brought this up in past videos, and I'm going to bring it up when I post my film breakdown of Ace Bailey, which is coming very soon. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to know when that's coming out, because it's already recorded, it's already done. I just got to put it out. Yeah, but I think his shooting is also very phenomenal. His off-ball play is phenomenal. I think he's great in transition, and he just has a little bit of problems of creating advantages for himself when getting downhill, and sometimes when his handle is a little loose because he's not the best ball handler, he can be put in these very tough situations. But the thing that I think people don't look at when they look at his struggles getting downhill is his counters to it. You know, there's a lot of post fadeaways. There's a lot of tough jumpers that he does take and make because he is 6'10" with an extremely long wingspan. And it's going to be really hard to contest that shot. A lot of shots that are good looks for Ace Bailey may not be the best looks for Tre Johnson or Kasparas Jakucionis. So that's the type of thing that you look at with Ace Bailey and be like, you know what? I can dig this. I can get with that. I don't necessarily love the Michael Porter Jr. comparison, because he does have the potential to be a shooter like Michael Porter Jr., but I don't think the athleticism that Michael Porter Jr. possesses right now is what Ace Bailey has. I think back in Michael Porter Jr.'s pre-injury days, you can make that better comparison, but as of right now, Michael Porter Jr.'s athleticism does not match up to Ace Bailey's, in my opinion. But the things that Ace Bailey is doing right now, a lot of people talk about his decision making. That is something that's going to be progressed as well. I believe if you are in the right developmental plan, you can really become a proper decision maker on the floor. We don't necessarily see a lot of prospects come into the game immediately and know how to make these reads out of double teams or these quick decisions, whether you're in the short roll or you're in transition or you're getting doubled, things like that. So I think the concerns are real, but I also think that we need to just take a step back before we necessarily just deem them as a guy that's going to be a player that just can't create rim pressure and is going to be living off of a tough shot diet. So up next, as a matter of fact, not up next, I want to talk about his fit with the Raptors. I think him and Scotty could be very, very like suffocating defensively. I know Ace Bailey isn't the best defender right now, but once again, he has all the tools, so I think with Scotty and how versatile he is, whether it's playing that primary ball handler role, being such a good finisher around the rim and creating rim pressure immensely, is going to help out for Ace Bailey a lot. And if I'm Toronto, I would take this. I think Toronto definitely needs a scorer. And I think if you develop Ace Bailey well enough, he can be a 25 and 8 and 10 type of guy on a night-to-night basis. I'm still very, very high on Ace Bailey. Up next, Charlotte Hornets is going to be taking Jeremiah Fears. Now, this is the problem I have. Jeremiah Fears is a phenomenal player. He just missed out on the top 5 when it comes to scoring in my video. I don't know if people think that me having Derik Queen, spoiler alert, Derik Queen was my 5th best scorer out of these prospects. I really like Jeremiah Fears. I really do. And I'm very interested to see what his pro comparison is. But there's just a few things that I think aren't going to translate to the NBA. Right now, Jeremiah Fears has a very, very big issue of creating rim pressure. And once again, this is kind of extremely different from what Ace Bailey's problem is, creating rim pressure. Ace Bailey is just the handle isn't there. I think Jeremiah Fears is really slim, and he does not have the athleticism and the strength to create these really good looks at the rim, because he's 6'4". The reason I'm able to give Ace Bailey some leeway with the rim pressure is because we see the athleticism, we see the burst, we see the strength at times, and we see the way he's able to counter what the defense is giving him at such a moment's notice. I brought this up in my film breakdown, but Jeremiah Fears, he has a really tough problem creating rim pressure on these bigger wings at the college level. So once he gets to the NBA, that's only going to be harder. And he does take a lot of mid-range shots, and he does play really well off ball, and he does have a nice dribble drive, or not dribble drive, but dribble step back, dribble shoot, creating space in the perimeter to get a good look at around the 3-point line or just in space. But getting to the rim consistently is something I have a really big fear of with Jeremiah Fears. No pun intended. And then drafting him at number 4 would be a very big risk. His pro comp is Jaden Ivey and Russell Westbrook. I don't necessarily love that either, but that's my take on Jeremiah Fears. If I'm Charlotte, there's a lot of different ways you can go, but in my opinion, you struck gold with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. They play fantastic in transition. They're athletic. They can get out and run. You need that stopper. I think VJ Edgecombe is the stopper. And once again, VJ Edgecombe may not be a top 5 player, but I can definitely see him going top 6 or top 7. So if you could get a guy who's going to be a stopper, who's going to be a fantastic rebounder, because VJ Edgecombe crashes the glass more than any guard in this draft, I think him being a grab-and-go transition guy with a guy like LaMelo Ball who finds guys in transition effortlessly, I think that fits better. So up next, we're going to be going with the Utah Jazz taking Kasparas Jakucionis. I don't know how much of this I'm going to be doing because, once again, we're only 4 picks in and the video is already 12 minutes long or 11 minutes long. We're going to see. If you guys like these longer breakdowns, stick around because we're going to be here for a while. And actually, we're not going to be here for too long because the Celtics and the Thunder are about to come on. So anyway, Kasparas Jakucionis, I would love to see him in Utah. The thing with Utah is I don't watch them a lot. Like to be completely honest, I don't watch them a lot. And I don't necessarily know how many of these young players that Utah has is going to be around when they're starting to look to make playoff pushes. I don't know what they do with Jordan Clarkson. Don't know what they do with Colin Sexton. I definitely don't think that Utah is being like, you know what, let's draft a guy who fits with our pieces around them. They're still looking for the guy who they're going to build around because I don't think Lauri Markkanen is a long-term trade piece. I mean, a long-term player for this Utah Jazz team. But I think if they get Kasparas Jakucionis, that's going to be their building block. And I really like Kasparas Jakucionis. The pick and roll play, the off-ball play, the rim pressure, finishing through contact, his body control around the rim. All those things are really, really intriguing. So I think taking him at number 5 would be a massive W for them so they can have somebody that they can build around, be that combo guard. Right now he's listed as a point guard. I don't know if I would give him the ultimate point guard role, but I definitely would have him like the starting 2 guard. His pro comparison is Chauncey Billups. I was on a show with Pensar Basketball. Very good friend of the channel, by the way. Pensar shows a lot of love to At the Buzzer Sports. So if you guys want to go subscribe to him, Pensar Basketball. He put me onto this pro comparison, Bogdan Bogdanovic. It was really intriguing. Up next, we have Portland taking VJ Edgecombe. I like this move a lot. You know, Portland has a lot of pieces that can be moved. Jeremy Grant's a guy that needs to be moved. Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton. I don't necessarily hate them going for a point guard as well, though. VJ Edgecombe is a shooting guard, by the way. But if they were to land the 2 pick and take Dylan Harper, I wouldn't be mad at them at all because Scoot Henderson is just not panned out, and I don't know how much longer you're going to really want to really give that time. Anyway, I've already said as much as I could about VJ Edgecombe, so having him next to a guy like Shaedon Sharpe and really shoring up that defense, him and Donovan Clingan would be a really, really, really suffocating defense, and it would definitely build the potential of having a suffocating defense, especially if you're going to be keeping Denny Advia. Up next, we have the Brooklyn Nets taking Kaman Malak. I definitely like Kaman Malak, and I think there's some scoring upside there. You know, he is very aggressive as a defender, you know, just baiting himself for blocks instead of really trying to protect the rim, which is something we see a lot from younger defenders. So I'm not going to blame him necessarily. I think and Jordi Fernandez, I believe, which is the name of the head coach for the Nets, he looks really good, and I think he's going to put Kaman Malak in a situation where he can be a really good defender. But obviously, if you're Brooklyn, you're going to want to jump up in the draft a little bit more because you only have a certain window to go get these players. Up next, the Sacramento Kings are going to be taking Tre Johnson. Tre Johnson is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite prospect in this year's draft, just because I love everything he does as a scorer, whether it's in the pick and roll, whether it's being able to size players up in the mid-range, playing out of the post. All of these things are very intriguing, and I'm not going to lie, he reminds me a lot of Devin Booker. He reminds me a lot of Devin Booker, and if he has that scoring potential, I don't hate the Sacramento Kings taking him, especially if they're moving off of Fox, Sabonis, and all these other guys. This is something that's going to be very intriguing. Up next, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder taking Asa Newell. Very good transitional player. He's a solid shot blocker. He moves his game out a little bit past the perimeter, which is something I'm not going to see him doing a lot, or I wouldn't expect to see a lot of at the higher level, because he has been a little inconsistent, but very solid player, has some upside. I don't think he would play much if he got drafted to OKC. This is probably going to be a guy who's going to be a trade piece or somebody who's going to be developed over the next few years. Up next, we have the Pistons taking Con Knipple, which is something that I'm not surprised by. If you're the Pistons, you want to do anything but take a non-shooting three, you know. I think Con Knipple can be that shooter next to Cade Cunningham. I think Con Knipple moves very well off ball. I think he has a very quick release that's going to allow him to shoot a lot more threes than expected. And he's a very solid shooter. I think he's shooting like 34% on 7 attempts at the college level. Taking 7 threes a game at the college level is something that doesn't happen much. So I am very impressed with that. Up next, the San Antonio Spurs are going to be taking Ben Saraf, and this is the Bulls pick. So, Chicago, what happens if you guys don't get your pick? Like, can I go on a rant real fast? Like, I don't get it, because once again, I'm a Chicago guy. The Bulls are my favorite team, but I'm going to root for the Bulls. I'm going to root for the Bulls. You know, they're not my favorite team, but I'm going to root for the Bulls, you know, and it's just really questioning why they're out here really trying to win games. And you have a top 10 protected pick. Like, dude, like 1 through 7, these teams are bad. And they're purposely trying to be bad at this point. So it's like, why are you guys still winning games when realistically the highest you may be is around 8, 9, and 10? That's all you have. That's all you have. So it's very confusing. Up next, the San Antonio Spurs are going to be taking Ben Saraf. And I like Ben Saraf. I like Ben Saraf a lot. He has the Manu Ginobili comparison, which I can see. I've watched Ben Saraf minutes. Don't get me wrong. I haven't watched enough to have a full breakdown, but what I've seen so far, he's a left-handed combo guard who can play out of the pick and roll, can create rim pressure. The problem I have is he takes a lot of mid-range jumpers. Those mid-range jumpers don't necessarily fall that often, and then when he does get around the rim, he's a little inconsistent there as well. So the idea of Ben Saraf is very intriguing, but if you're having a guy who, I don't know how old he is, he's only 18. Wow. You got the whole facial hair thing going at 18 years old. I wish I was that lucky. Anyway, the idea of Ben Saraf being a guy that can play out of the pick and roll and play make pretty well, those things are going to come with time. And just being a very mid-range reliant player who doesn't knock them down as often as I would like, that's concerning, because you're going to ask him to either create rim pressure immensely or move his game out to the 3-point line. So that's going to be very risky, but I don't hate the pick here. Houston, they're going to be taking Colin Murray-Boyles at 12. I don't hate this idea, but it's just like Houston desperately needs some floor spacing. I don't think Colin Murray-Boyles adds to that too much. And there's a lot of teams that I think would have loved Liam McNeely, and yet he has not been drafted yet. I think San Antonio would love Liam McNeely, and I also think Houston would really love Liam McNeely if he was on the board, especially if he's on the board at 12. I like Colin Murray-Boyles. He's a very good post player, very good help side rim protector, can put the ball on the floor. The thing is, right now he's kind of a tweener. You know, like he's a 6'7" power forward. You would want him to be able to eventually convert to the 3. But if the ball handling and the shooting does not get better, you may have to convert him to a 4. And now that hurts because he's only 6'7". But once again, the rebounding for his size is really good. His hands are always active. He's a very solid physical finisher, and he's a very good help side rim protector. So those things are always intriguing. But then again, I just don't love this fit with Houston because he's not going to be able to stretch the floor for you. He does not put the ball on the floor specifically well. And with all that traffic that you're going to have in Houston, it's only going to make it uglier for him. So if he were to go to Houston, I could see a really ugly rookie season from him. Anyway, up next, we have the Golden State Warriors taking Egor, Demin. He has now fallen all the way to 13. I remember when he was on that hot streak, everybody had him in top 5. Once again, what I saw from Egor, Demin earlier this season was a lot of very good shot making. I didn't know how much that would really hold up due to him being a little unathletic and having to create for this BYU team a little bit more than you would like, especially with his limitations athletically. But he is such a great shooter, and he is such a great playmaker that if you don't need him to be the primary creator, which where he's going right now in Golden State, he's not going to need to be, I think you would have a lot of very high attributes that he possesses, like the spot up shooting and just shooting off motion and being able to make those decisions, whether he can cut to the basket or attack closeouts. And once he has the numbers, he can make the right decision. I think this is going to be something that is very intriguing. I would play him at the 2, though. He is 6'9", but he is a little small, so I would definitely play him at the 2. Up next, the San Antonio Spurs are going to be taking Nolan Traore. I think somebody can really take a flyer on Nolan Traore, and it can end up being really good. Like Nolan Traore, to start this, as soon as the 2024 draft was over, I did a way too early mock draft for the 2025 draft. Once again, I don't think much people saw it because, again, only had like 300 subscribers. But Nolan Traore is somebody who, when you look at an NBA point guard who may have some limitations shooting the basketball, he does create rim pressure almost consistently. I love how he splits pick and rolls. I love how he plays pick and rolls. I love his burst to the basket. I love his change of speed. Those things are always going to be valuable because NBA defenses are going to collapse if there's a lane to the basket, and it's always going to open up for guys like, for the San Antonio Spurs case, Sham Penny and Harrison Barnes and Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell and Victor Wembanyama. So if the Spurs do have 2 picks in the lottery again, I don't hate taking a flyer on Nolan Traore. I don't. And then doing what they did last year and be like, you know what? Okay, we got Nolan Traore. Let's ship this other pick out, and go get somebody else or go get some future picks. So I don't hate that as well. Up next, we have Liam. I really don't agree with Liam McNeely falling out of the draft. I really don't. But again, this fit with Indiana is fantastic. I think Liam McNeely is a great transition player. He's a great spot-up shooter. And how Indiana plays, I think he fits with that perfectly. Up next, we have the Brooklyn Nets taking Boogie Fland. I really like Boogie Fland. I think there's a ceiling there with his offensive game. He is very ball dominant. Shout out to Ball Dominant Podcast coming back soon. He is an inconsistent shooter at times. He doesn't necessarily have the off-ball play that you would want from him. He is a solid defender, which I will give him. But once again, very nice player, very good player. Up next, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder taking Noah Essengay. I've seen a couple of minutes from Noah Essengay. He is a really nice ball handler and rebounder and transition player. This is like a really, really, really unpolished Scotty Barnes. Like, I can see him becoming a guy that you can see playing the 4, the 3, maybe the 2, the 5. I can see him being a better playmaker, but this is somebody who the Oklahoma City would love to take a flyer on because the physical attributes are there. If you get what I'm saying, the physical attributes are there to where he could become a very positive piece for you, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. This is somebody that you're going to have to put a lot of details and just put a lot of polish on before they become a finished product, which a lot of these guys in the draft are. But I think if you were put him in a position where he's going to have to get a lot of heavy minutes, it would be very ugly for him right now. So having him in Oklahoma City is probably the best thing for him. Up next, we have the San Antonio Spurs taking Derik Queen. This is another guy who I don't necessarily love going all the way at 18. But then again, I don't necessarily love his defense. I don't necessarily love how much he has the ball in his hand because I don't know how much that's going to convey to the NBA. I think he's roughly 6'9". Yeah, so there's some things that, once again, are very intriguing at the college level that just may not be as intriguing at the NBA level. It's going to be tough really seeing him play in the pick and roll and play as a traditional center because in Maryland, he's really just having the ball in his hand and he's driving to the rim. And he is very physical around the rim, and I do think he will be a really good finisher at the higher level just because of his physicality and his strength. But I would love to see him with the Clippers, with an Atlanta, maybe even Brooklyn if they decide to re-sign D'Lo. Somebody he can play with in the pick and roll that can really create shots for him, so where his limited touches or his touches can go down to making short roll decisions or making quick decisions with the ball in his hand to make a better angle for him to score, things like that, because I don't really think he's going to be able to be on the perimeter and just size another big up at the higher level that he has been in college. So I would love to see Derik Queen move up a little bit in the draft, but I can understand why teams may be a little hesitant because his defense isn't the best. He is a little short at the big man position. 6'10 to 6'9 isn't really the best. So that's going to limit his rim protection a little bit. He's not very, very athletic. So I can understand why he could fall to a mid-draft pick. Up next, the Utah Jazz will be taking Labyrinth Phelan. I see a lot of Jalen Suggs in him just because of his tenacity on defense and his transition play. Those things are really intriguing for me. He gets to the rim really well, and he's very active on defense. I like this pick for Utah. They definitely need some type of defense, point of attack defense there. Thomas Sorber, I've definitely seen a little bit. I'm not that big on his game just yet. Still doing a little bit of research on him, so we're just going to skip past him. The Atlanta Hawks take him with our pick. He has been a really dominant rebounder so far out of what I've seen. Hugo Gonzalez is another guy. I heard he's been injured this season, so he hasn't been playing much, so that's really hindered his draft stock, but we're going to keep moving. Ian Jackson is another guy that I need a little bit more research on. Same with Nick Clifford. Yeah, this might be the section of the draft where we need to start doing a little bit of touching up. Alex Tuhey, another guy I got to. Will Riley, I've seen some minutes of. I think this is a really good flyer at the end of the draft. He's 6'9", he can shoot, he can get to the rim. He's a really good offensive rebounder. I definitely think if he's there at the 27th pick and Brooklyn is on the board, I think Will Riley is a really good player to pick just to see what that can become. All right, so yeah, and Rocco Zakarski. Okay, this is another guy I've been watching film on. I think Rocco is very, very raw. He's very raw as an offensive player. Defensively, he is extremely athletic. You know, I've seen him switch on to guards in transition. I think he is nimble enough to guard wings on the perimeter. I'm not going to sit here and say he can guard point guards on the perimeter, but the things that he can do defensively is intriguing, and putting him in Los Angeles next to James Harden and he can learn from Zubats, I think that's a really good fit. So that's going to be the last pick here. I appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate everybody subscribing lately. You know, we've just been monetized, and right now I'm working on some things to really upgrade the production of my channel. I just wanted to get some content out for you guys because over the time I'm going to be doing some production changes to my channel. I may not be as focused on actually recording much because there are a lot of things I'm doing to up the production. So thank you guys for watching. I hope everybody has a wonderful day over at the Buzzer Crew. Before you leave this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm out. Everybody have a peace and blessed day. Peace.